Hello and welcome back to the Morning Bulletin here on the Blood Red channel. I'm your host, Edward Kay, and I'm joined today by James Martin, and we're going to be discussing Liverpool's game tonight against West Ham. We're going to start with the bad news, obviously, get that out of the way. Jurgen Klopp confirming in his press conference yesterday, James, that Diogo Jota is going to be out for a matter of months. He said, and definitely until out for the World Cup, didn't put an exact time frame on it, but did say that it will be months, Jurgen Klopp. Just how big of a loss is that going to be for Liverpool, given they've already lost Diaz on that left-hand side?
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, you wouldn't want to lose Jota at the best of times, but, Liverpool have gone through fairly lengthy periods with him on the sidelines before, and it's not been too bad. But yeah, he was the obvious solution to Diaz being out. And I suppose you'd say maybe even particularly with the formation switch, he was kind of the one who was holding that up after Diaz left. So yeah, we're sort of out of natural left midfield options. But I mean, wherever there's stuff like this, there's also opportunities. So maybe you'd look at someone like Fabio Carvalho. Maybe he can make that his own. Darwin Nunez, he's been picking up. He has looked promising, but maybe this is where he can nail down a near enough guaranteed starting place, even if that is out on the left. I know he played there a few times for Benfica. I think he went on some crazy run when he was played there last season, scored something like 10 goals in 4 games or something, but admittedly against some random Portuguese minnows, but it all counts. So yeah, there's solutions there, but yeah, if you were picking one of the members of the front four to drop out now, it would not have been the only remaining recognised left winger for sure. And of course, a big blow for Jota as well to miss the World Cup. That's devastating for him. At least with Diaz, there was the silver lining that Colombia hadn't qualified anyway. So yeah, it's tough for Jota and tough for Liverpool.
Yeah, as you say, it really does puts a lot of pressure on sort of Firmino in that number 10 role in the 4-2-3-1. But in the Blood Red podcast the other day, they did with Jota being out now, they plumped for the 4-3-3 again rather than the 4-2-3-1. Do you think with obviously Diaz and Jota out, no real natural left-sided option, like you say, Carvalho and Nunez can play there? But do you think we might see a bit of a reversion to the 4-3-3 tonight then?
Well, it's tricky because, I mean, the thing is the 4-3-3 also requires an out-and-out left winger. It's not as if that's the solution that sort of fixes the problem. So, yeah, I mean, I understand the logic because obviously a 4-2-3-1 requires an extra attacker and we've lost 2 of our main attackers. So, yeah, it would be bold to keep going with it. But equally, it worked against Man City. It produced, one of the biggest results of the season against Rangers. So it would be, I think if anything, it would be bolder to revert back to the 4-3-3 now, just because, it wasn't working. Whether it was a formation issue, whether it was other issues, I'm sure it was a combination of many things. But to have, garnered 2 of the best results of the season and finally built up some momentum and then to switch back to the system that hadn't been working, I think I'd rather, try out Carvalho at left mid or try out Nunez over there than switch back. But then again, I would understand the rationale because, if there's another injury, then that's really it for the 4 attacker formation. There's just not enough left if another one sort of drops out between now and the busy run to the World Cup. So yeah, it's a tough decision. I think if it were me, I would just about err on the side of sticking with the 4 up top.
Yeah, we'll step away from injuries and selection for a minute and just look at the bigger picture. Obviously, like you mentioned, coming off the back of a great win against Rangers and an even bigger win against Manchester City. Obviously, only a couple of days ago that the game's coming thick and fast now. How important is it that Liverpool can, get a win tonight and really kick on in terms of building that momentum? It's such a, a mentality and a momentum-based side. Just how important is that?
Yeah, massively important. I mean, I've got the Liverpool.com newsletter coming out today, actually, where I've said this could be the most important game of the season, which, you wouldn't necessarily expect from just a random Premier League game against West Ham sort of midway through the first half of the campaign. But yeah, it's massive, because at the moment, Liverpool have momentum, which they haven't really had all season. And this is where they can build on it going into a nice run of games, or they can just completely lose it. And, if they follow up the Man City win with a win in this game, they're expected to come out with 3 points. Then yeah, we've got the ball rolling. We're on the right track again. But if we don't get a result, then it's more or less back to square one. All of the same problems are going to be exacerbated again. They're going to be highlighted. So yeah, it's hard to overstate how big the game is. You'd fancy Liverpool. It's It's tricky because part of what made that, you wouldn't want to say Man City played into Liverpool's hands as such, but part of what made that performance possible was that they were coming on to us, they were pressing us high, and that left a lot of space in behind. It could almost be the sort of Liverpool of old, a vintage Jurgen Klopp performance, if you like. West Ham won't do that, certainly not under David Moyes. So, the avenues which Liverpool exploited in the last game won't necessarily be there. But equally, if they can find a way to put in a performance of a similar level quality-wise, then surely that'll be 3 points.
Yeah, it's a great point from you. And obviously, another great bonus from the midweek game against Rangers and the game against City was Mo Salah getting back amongst the goals. Obviously, scored the fastest hat-trick in Champions League history in the week, and then scored the winner against Manchester City. So no doubt he's going to be flying high. What's that going to do for his confidence, and how scary is it for West Ham to be coming up against a Mohamed Salah who has regained some confidence?
Yeah, not a bad week for him, is it? Scoring against City and breaking that Champions League record. Yeah, you wouldn't fancy coming up against him if you were West Ham. Of course, the obvious answer of what's changed is that he's going through the middle now. You'd imagine Klopp would persist with that. The big beneficiary of that is Harvey Elliott, who now appears to be the right mid, first choice right mid, especially with Jota out, who would have been another option over there. So, yeah, as long as Salah's firing through the middle, that looks like the shape that's going to be persisted with. And like you say, there's a confidence question as well. He seems like the sort of player who never really doubted himself, even when those chances weren't going in. I mean, we saw in the Man City game itself, he had one save, didn't he? And then it didn't stop him from tucking the next one away. That's just what he does. But equally, yeah, every striker likes to be on a run. They like to be scoring goals, and when that happens, more goals tend to follow. I think the biggest thing for Liverpool is getting someone like Núñez on a run like that. He seems to be struggling a little bit more with that kind of mental side of the game, the confidence side, and he's maybe one who needs to settle down a bit more, whereas Salah has been there, done it all. He knows that he can score hatfuls of goals when he gets on a bit of a run. But yeah, of course, it's never going to be a bad thing for Liverpool when Salah really hits his stride like he seems to be doing now.
Yeah, regular in the comments here, Kumar agreeing with you that Núñez could cause West Ham some problems tonight. And he's also put his predicted 11 in the chat. One thing I'd like to pick up on there, poor old James Milner, puts in basically a man of the match performance against Man City, and he's back on the bench in Kumar's team. But I think probably to be expected at his age, you don't want him playing that many games in such a short amount of time. But yeah, a word on just how well Milner played and how good it's going to be as well to see Trent back after we thought he was going to be out for a couple of weeks with an injury.
Yeah, I hadn't even clocked he was on the bench until he came on against Man City, to be honest. So I was as surprised as anyone. But yeah, it's a great boost if he is back and ready to start. You'd assume he's pretty close to that if he was able to come on against Man City. I mean, Klopp said about Curtis Jones that they put him on the bench, but knew he'd never be able to come on. So clearly Trent's further along than he is in terms of fitness. Yeah, Milner was exceptional. I think we were all pretty worried when the lineups came out and he was at right back. I mean, with good reason. Last season, we had to do the same thing. Milner, and bear in mind that's Milner a year younger than he is now, had to play at right back, and City did exploit it. That was the 2-2 game. And, the fear was if it was 2-2 without Haaland to finish off some of those chances, what's it going to be with him in the team? But no, Milner was exceptional. And yeah, I've credited him already in a couple of pieces, but I think Harvey Elliott deserves some praise as well. He was exceptional as well in terms of that defensive work rate. I mean, you look at the stats, it wasn't great. I think I was on with Ben the other day and he was highlighting how he lost all 7 of his defensive duels. But I think that somewhat misses the point as well. The fact was he was tracking back, he was getting in the way, he was disrupting things. And I think Pep Guardiola's reaction said it all, really. There was one moment in the half where Foden, I think, managed to actually get some space over on that flank and he didn't play the killer ball behind Milner, and Pep was going absolutely mad. De Bruyne was going mad on the other side as well. So that's how rare those opportunities were for them, and that's credit to both Milner and to Harvey Elliott. But yeah, I think I agree with Kumar. If Trent's back, he's got to be in. If he's not, then I guess the way to go is Milner again. Although, like you say, at his age, maybe you don't want to be playing 2 games in quick succession. So I suppose another option would be Gomez back out to right back, and then I suppose Nat Phillips would come in, or even Fabinho dropping in at centre back. Those are both viable-ish options. But yeah, hopefully Trent coming on is a sign that he's ready to start this one.
Yeah, Milner put in quite a shift, having, like you say, he was given nightmares by Phil Foden last season at Anfield, wasn't he? Probably should have been sent off, but dealt with him so well at the weekend. Finally, we'll just touch on the big boss man himself, Jurgen Klopp, has been charged by the FA for his obviously outburst and the red card that he got in the City game, but expected to be in the dugout tonight. Obviously, there was some speculation of whether he would be there, whether he wouldn't. David Moyes came out and said, "Look, I want to compete against the best, and I want to see him in the dugout." Looks like he will be. How much of a boost is that for Liverpool?
Yeah, it's always a bonus. It's an odd situation. We haven't been in it too many times. Both on the field and in the dugout. Liverpool have tended to have pretty clean disciplinary records. I think we've been top of the fair play table for something like 4 of the last 5 seasons or something like that. Klopp seems to have had a knack of topping it since he came in. But yeah, it's not ideal when he does miss the game, because I imagine at some stage that sort of suspension will kick in. It just tends to have a bit of a delay on these things. But yeah, it'll be good to have him for this one, especially as we alluded to earlier, with this being such a big game for the season. It's one where you want the manager to be able to be on the touchline sort of shouting instructions, and of course, even when he's not in the dugout, he'll still be making the calls. He'll still be sort of dictating subs and stuff. But yeah, it's useful to have him down there for sure, and hopefully that can get the result that's needed here.
Yeah, another massive game in the Premier League tonight, isn't it? As the games start to come thick and fast, as we're cramming them in before this World Cup. But that is all we've got time for today here on the Daily News Bulletin. From myself and from James Martin, it's goodbye for now.